Chuck presses herself tighter against her Terran lovingly, as the room watches them tenderly dance together to the song Simone wrote. In a deep inhale, she takes in the Terran's new perfume and the natural scent she has come to adore. Trying not to look like she is feeling up the redhead in front of everyone, the Callie can't help but notice something else about the woman's body, as her lowers explored a little. "You're a bit denser than normal. Are you tense? We don't have to dance for too much longer if you're uncomfortable," Chuck whispers. Being in quite the opposite state, Simone opens her eyes and lets her mind process what the Callie just asked. "I'm all good, hun. I think you're just noticing that I'm back on my usual workout routine. Wasn't easy after becoming a parent of 2, but I'm almost back to where I was when we first met. Gotta be at my best until this is over, you know. And plus, I kinda wanted to look my best for you today," the Terran answers. "Your abs do make my head light and twirly," Chuck giggles softly. "But just know that, whether you're dense like rocks or soft like pillows, I love you all the same. You will always be my big strong Terran. That's a promise." "You say that, but just wait until I hit 100. I have a sneaking suspicion that old age is going to hit me like a freight truck," Simone counters in a chuckle. "That won't change a thing," Chuck counters, in an adoring tone. "Because you'll still be the woman I met in that bar, and the same woman who did so much for not only me, but our friends and family. Simone Thatch will still be Simone Thatch." The redhead's smile widens. "I guess that's true. And at least even when I'm old and decrepit, I'll still have those sexy hips to admire." She chuckles deviously, while her hands slide down the Callie's sides to the hips in question. "Even better, though, is the lady who owns them." Chuck's eyes flash as she has to remind herself that literally everyone in the room is watching them right now. But mercifully, Simone lifts her hands back up to their usual dancing positions. "Do you think we're the first Terran Callie married couple?" Simone asks. "Oh, it unfortunately wouldn't surprise me if we are, though we're clearly not the first to be in a relationship if those forums I researched through were of any indication," Chuck responds. Simone huffs a laugh and nods in agreement, as her eyes catch the table where their kids sit at. "In case I haven't told you yet, you're a damn good parent, to both SJ and Jamie. I appreciate you so much," she informs tenderly. In response, Chuck rubs the side of her head against her wife's shoulder. "I didn't expect to raise a family so soon in life, I'll freely admit, but doing so with you has been a lovely adventure so far, and I can't wait to continue it into our future. Though, I believe 2 kids are more than enough for me. Not that I won't turn down another if the situation arose, but this is perfect for me," she replies. "I could have another too, but I get it," Simone assures in amusement. 2 is perfectly fine for me too." Soon after their private conversation draws to a close, their song comes to an end, followed by a few other people coming in to join in the dancing to the next song. After a few rounds of dancing and general partying, as the energy of the music increases, 2 catering assistants haul in what seems to be a fair-sized cake, though not absurdly large as Simone expects from the media she's previously watched. Yet from a distance it's clear there's a lot of fancy detail put into it. Once the cake is fully settled on the empty end of their long table, the brides depart the dance floor and approach it together, with the others gathering to get pictures. "What kind of cake is it?" Simone asks, reflexively pulling her own hand away from the impulse to sneak some frosting. But it isn't necessarily the self-reminder to hold off on it that stops her. Rather, it is that she fully sees what the cake is decorated as. A representation of a fantasy Terran castle, adorned with decorative Callie homeworld flora, complete with glowing edible dyes. It's like an impossible medieval Terran structure built in a faraway world. It crosses her mind that the cake may seem improper for a wedding reception, and better suited for a 12-year-old's birthday party, but Simone finds it too awesome to give a shit. It's their wedding, their rules. "The larger base is carrot cake for Terran preferred consumption, and the rest is a Callie-safe cold dew base with the highest quality carrot cake flavoring I could procure," Seven informs. Simone's eyes widen as she looks it over at all the intricate carved stonework, windows, doors, and plants. You made this, Seven? The redhead asks in amazement. I baked the cake and helped prepare the frosting. However, it was Troy who did the artistic decoration and... The bot replies pleasantly. It was down to the wire too, but we got it done, Troy adds with a big grin. Chuck said she wanted something King Arthur-y, so I did what I could with the time I had. Consider it another personal wedding gift to you. Carrot cake is really, really good, Miki chitters in anticipation, clearly having had samples during the cake's creation. It tastes nothing like Terran carrots. Simone eyes Troy while shaking her head. You're wasting your potential on bounty hunting, I swear, she compliments. The man can only shrug at that, while Seven puts down a cake knife, down for the price to take. Alright, I understand that we cut this cake together, but do we simply feed each other with forks, or do we smash whole pieces into each other's faces? The tradition seems to go either way from what I could tell, Chuck questions, as she picks up the knife. The smashing tends to be more of a prank thing, but if you want me to, I'll be sure to clean up the mess, Simone teases, as she comes right up next to Chuck, and reaches a hand to hold the knife as well. Wrapping her other arm to hook the Callie's waist, to press up against hers, Simone fought a smirk at Chuck's flashing eyes. Ahem. Feeding is fine, Chuck assures, as she finds herself looking ever more forward to their honeymoon plans. You got it, Simone winks with a light squeeze, before looking up to the others to make sure everyone is ready to capture the moment. Then together, they aim for an upper wall in a section they knew they both could eat from. Chuck guides them precisely in their downward cuts, while Simone makes sure that said cuts are clean and fluid. Chuck then raises a small plate with her free hand, before they slid the piece onto it. Placing the knife down, the Callie heard her Terran huff a laugh of subtle air right in her ear, causing her to well up in loving admiration. Hearing Simone restrain such joy in something so simple made both of Chuck's hearts trip over each other. By all of Clat's sins, she loved this woman so damn much. With two small forks, each bride attains a carved chunk from the slice and mutually raises them so that they now look directly at one another. Both are compelled to say something in that moment, yet before their brains can think of something original or profound, they prevent each other from concluding their thought process with the exchanging insertions of delectably moist cake and frosting. Of course, it tastes amazing to Chuck and pretty decent to Simone, but neither dwell in the flavour for long, as their lips converge together before they can finish their respective bites. By the time they only slightly pull away, there's no more cake between them. So it's pretty good then, Thorne chuckles aloud, causing a minor uproar of laughs. Blushing and actually finding herself out of breath, Simone nods. Damn good, she eventually says, as she cuts another slice, curious over the Terran intended parts. They then step around the table and sit back down in their seats, while Seven took over cutting up slices for all who wanted one. Even SJ and the two Wataf brothers accepted slices from the upper half of the cake, since it's perfectly safe for them to have as well. Jamie, of course, is given a healthy serving that's attacked in a similar method as his earlier meals. Once everyone is settled down and well into their servings of cake, Donna walks over to the gifts and thumbs over at them, as though to say, "You ready for these?" Chuck returns a nod and bounces in her seat. Not missing a beat, Donna turns to the rest of the space. All right, everyone, the brides will now be opening gifts. But if you missed what I asked before the wedding started, if your gifts are of an adult nature, please let me know now so I can mark them with a pink tag. Those will be opened at a later time. I believe I have them all tagged, but if you are now realizing you misunderstood what I meant, this is your last chance to get it properly marked, she announces. As Donna surveys the guests, Simone looks over to suddenly realise that most of the gifts are marked with those pink tags. Burying her face in her hand, she shook it, unsure how to feel. "Are you alright, Simone?" Chuck asks in a whisper. "Yeah, I'm now realising just how our friends and family see us," she half jests. "Oh," Chuck says, as she looks over at the gifts as well. "I see what you mean, but at least they know we'll have some humorous fun opening those up together," she admits in a giggle. "I hate to say it, but yeah, you're right," Simone agrees, before Donna walks over with the first gift. "This first one is from Miki and Nodrin," Donna informs the room. The gift is wrapped like a package, with perhaps a bit too much tape, and as Chuck tries to open it as respectfully as possible, a grat voice calls out, "Tear it to shreds," Miki encourages. Chuckling, Chuck gracefully pushes the wrapped item to Simone for the honours. Without hesitation, Simone amplified her juvenile savagery to the max as she tore up the wrapping. To the Grat's and Jamie's immediate glee, it is absolutely decimated as Simone threw tape and wrapping material up and behind her with reckless abandon. Within the package, however, are a few items cushioned by a handmade woven blanket. "Nodrin made that," Miki informs. Holding it up, Simone shows the light, intricate Grat designs upon the dark blanket. It's all very abstract, and has an oddly comforting strong medicinal smell to it. "Not certain if there's a direct translation, but it is a Grat calming blanket. You fill with bees and warm up. Ancestors will then protect you," Nodrin explains. "Ah, like a weighted blanket," Simone realises. "That's awesome." "Thank you, Nodrin," Chuck says, before picking up one of the things that the blanket cushioned. It's a painted, cylindrical metal container. Correctly positioning it, Chuck carefully opens the end with a cap, and looks within before being immediately surprised by the strong aroma that matches the blanket. "Oh, and this is something you apply to the blanket itself?" the Callie asks. "Yes," Nodrin confirms. "Troy says it's much like Terran lavender." "And these are from Miki, I'm guessing," Simone says, as she lifts up 2 crystal dagger handles. "Yes, love mine. Thought you can find them useful too. Those not as big as mine though. Much sorry," Miki replies. "That's fine. Thank you guys," Simone assures in a laugh before setting them down. "I suppose it's about time we got you one of these too," she redirects at Chuck. "I'll teach you how best to use it later, eh?" she adds with a wink. "Oh yes, I certainly can't rely on my pulse rifle for every situation," Chuck agrees. As those gifts are set aside, Donna comes back with another gift. "This is from Bree and Avery," she announces. At their table, Bree bounces Avery and whispers into his ear excitedly, telling him that they were opening his gift to them. Taking this one, Chuck opens the envelope-style present and carefully pours out the flat contents. First is a datapad, followed by several crayon drawings on paper. The Callie takes up the pad while Simone goes through the drawings. "Oh my! Bree, this is so generous. Thank you," Chuck says, before showing Simone that Bree has given them several VIP status cards for prominent restaurants and clubs at CHS. "You're welcome. I know since you're royalty you already have an in with those kind of places, but if that ever changes or if anyone you know could use them, you now got them for sure," Bree replies. A bit teary-eyed, Simone in return shows off the drawings to Chuck. Though the quality is what one would expect from such a young Terran child, the contents are incredibly wholesome. One especially, which has writing above 3 roughly depicted smiling figures. "I hope me and Jamie and SJ will be good friends." "Oh my goodness," Chuck mumbles happily. "Thank you, Avery. We hope so too. SJ loves to draw too," Simone pleasantly says to the kid, who smiles, but immediately hides his face in his mother's shoulder. "This is from Jen and Duke," Donna says, as she places a fist-sized rectangular box in front of the redhead. Still keeping the drawings close to show her kids later, Simone takes the bow off the otherwise unwrapped box and clicks it open to see a fully custom case and storage for specific movies. Inside is a collage of characters and quotes from the movies, with a small plaque at the bottom describing exactly what the contents are. A hand immediately presses to her chest as her heart skips a beat. "No way," she utters, before standing from her seat to address Bree's parents. "This isn't a joke, right? This is fucking real?" she asks.
"No joke. What you have right there is a copy of the most intact copies of the original trilogy of Star Wars. Some of it is pretty scuffed and there's minimal use of AI reconstruction, but it's quite the collector's item, am I right?" Duke informs.
"I dressed up the storage in case that we got to store them on. I hope you enjoy," Jen adds, with a waggle of eyebrows. "Thank you so much," Simone says, as she sits back down, practically fawning over it, before setting it aside. "We are certainly watching those later," Chuck says, as she pats Simone's back, knowing those movies were her wife's father's favourite. "I'm so glad gift-giving isn't a competition. That's pretty cool," Donna says, before placing down a bigger but far softer package. "This is from Jackie, the girls and I." Nodding, Simone and Chuck pull apart the thin wrapping and reveal two simple, nearly matching sweaters. One being for a large-framed Terran, while the other a Callie. "The girls picked them out for you," Donna says before leaning closer. "Jackie and I also got you a pink tag gift," she adds, in a hushed, winking whisper. "These sweaters are pretty cool," Simone says, before fully lifting it to view what's on it. "I love cheeseburgers," is boldly written on hers, and a bit confused she turns to look at Chuck's before fully understanding. "I'm cheeseburgers." "Okay, yeah, no, these are legit amazing," Simone amends, with much more sincerity. "Want to put them on now?" Chuck giggles. "Fuck yes. By the fucking stars, hun, I love you," Simone replies, quickly starting to fit hers on. "I hope so," Chuck laughs, as she also fits her sweater on. "Otherwise these wouldn't be truthful." Now having a hand on her chest, Donna shook her head in both amusement and appreciation to personally know these two dorks. "And that's it. The rest are pink tagged," she recovers. "You'll really, really want this honeymoon to go well, eh?" The room explodes with laughter, with Chuknuk dominating it all. Uyala raised a grasper and erects his posture up for attention. "To be fair, our gifts are not adult, but they are better suited to be opened at a later time. The rest of you, however," he hisses in continuing laughter. Simone shook her head, but then found her eyes locking on Vin. Lacing her finger, she gave him a smugly questioning raised eye tuft expression, before glancing at the gifts. She clearly sees one from him, and by the time her eyes fall back to him, he is using a mitten to hide his face from her. "Deviance indeed," she mumbles to herself, before freeing the poor man from her smugly judging stare. As the reception comes to its end, and kids sleepily dangle on their bust, and a few brownie-high parents, goodbyes are starting to be shared amongst each other, but primarily to the newlyweds. Simone brushes the back of Jamie's head as he clings onto her. Despite looking forward to what comes next, she feels guilty having to hand the boy over to Brandy, but not before smoothing his face with a storm of kisses. "We won't be gone for long, kiddo, promise. You and your sibling be good to Auntie Brandy, alright?" she says, before passing him along. He accepts it, but clearly only because of how tired he is. Simone then turns to Chuck, where she was saying farewell to SJ before their departure. "Remember that Brandy is the babysitter. You keep an eye on Jamie, but have fun, alright?" the redhead says to the small tough. SJ nods before booping their face against Chuck's, then Simone's, before skittering over to their babysitter. "You two have fun now. Remember that we'll be just a call away if anything happens," Brandy says with a nod, as she takes the kids away. With one of his twins in his arm, Jackie walks up and quickly holds out an access keycard for a rover. "She's all yours. Had my best people tune her up to her best," he says, as Simone accepts it. "Want me to rush back and help blow stuff up?" "Thanks, and it's all good. Seven is helping us out with that," the redhead assures. "Roger that," Jackie grunts, as he adjusts his sleeping daughter before taking his leave. Duke and Jen, with a slumbering Avery in Duke's arms, then approach. "It was so nice of you to have invited us, Simone. This was such a lovely ceremony," Jen says. "Oh, of course. I wouldn't have thought to not invite you," Simone says as she shakes their hands. "I know what you did way back when was a bride thing for Bree's sake, but I really appreciated helping me ease into my first day too. Speaking of Bree, where is she?" she then asks, at the nearly empty space. "That, Ellie girl?" Duke says in a soft tone, to not disturb the child in his arms. "Well, Bree politely offered to walk her and her grandmother back to their unit," he explains. Chuck opens her mouth to comment that Jet actually has her own separate unit, but upon realization silences herself before a work and escape. "Duke and I have our work to return to, but I think Bree and Avery may still be here by the time you return. She hopes to set up a playdate with your kids," Jen further explains. "Ah, that sounds great. Well, it was nice seeing you two again. Hopefully we can see each other more often now that Bree and I reconnected," Simone says with a wide smile. "Absolutely. Take care, you two," Jen says, before giving them both a quick, friendly goodbye hug. Once they were relatively alone, Chuck takes hold of Simone's hand in hers. "Shall we find our carriage, Madam Knight?" she teases playfully. "Sure thing, my princess," Simone teases, right back, before heading off to snag 7 for their assistance. Simone activates the locking mechanism of the rover's door, and walks over towards the front driver's seat, and readies it to begin their honeymoon journey. Impressed, Chuck eyes the well-arranged, relatively small space in the main section of the rover. There's a small kitchen unit across from a small dining space with an extendable table. Next to it is a door that presumably leads into a lavatory shower combo. Then, looking above where Simone currently sits, Chuck noticed a small loft-like area where she can see is meant for sleeping and resting. Her mind wandering, the princess observes the fact that there's cabinet storage in every opportunity that this place can possibly be capable of. That makes sense, considering this was meant to be a temporary livable space, away from civilization. "I'm assuming these rovers are meant for more than newlywed traditions," she asks, as she casually inspects several cabinets to take stock. "Yep, though they are mostly still recreationally used these days," Simone answers, as she fires up the engine and sends the ready signal to the bay door operator. These were initially used for surveying and prospecting on site, though once shuttles were much more accessible here, they really haven't been of much use with that stuff. Some folk even straight up call them campers because that's basically what they've become. Sometimes families or couples would rent one of these and just live in them for a few days while traversing this little asteroid. "Oh? Should I rent or purchase one for our use? We are planning on going on that camping trip after all," Chuck points out. Simone tilts her head in thought. "Well, this one is meant for low-gravity environments, and the Grat homeworld, especially for you, would be the opposite. Though this does have one of the best, smaller artificial grav systems, which may be the most important thing for us while we're there. Maybe we could get one of these then. We'll ask some people smarter than us about it later," the redhead says in a chuckle, as she watches the bay's atmosphere decompress, and the door eventually starts to lift open. Chuck wanders to a passenger seat next to Simone and sits herself down. "So, do you know how this wedding tradition started?" she inquires, before Simone begins piloting the rover forward and out into the contrasting white-grey surface and black tar-filled sky above. "Not really, though it makes a lot of sense. Terran honeymoons are like a vacation away from everyone else, you know? Just so those who've been hitched get their own personal time to kick off the rest of their lives together. And since not a lot of people here can really afford to leave for very long, this is a great alternative. A trip around the asteroid with nothing but each other, the rover and the vacuum of space just outside, Simone responds, as she turns and pulls up the predetermined path that they are going to take for the trip. Some older folk joke about it being a test to see if the couples can really put up with one another, but the trip really isn't that long, especially when autopilot is engaged during sleep hours. We should be back at the colony in just under 2 standard days. I could spend weeks alone with you, love, Chuck giggles. I don't know, hun. I can be quite the pain sometimes. Even you have your limits of how much Simone you can tolerate. The redhead chuckles back. Nonsense. You're my happy place in this entire universe. I could never have too much of you, Chuck counters, as she rests a hand on Simone's thigh. Though, now I must ask, is there a limit you can tolerate me? She questions in a coy manner. Not answering that, Simone jests, before lowering a hand to hold the Callies. Regardless, we're in this together, no matter where we end up, she promises sincerely. Jack turns her hand over to directly embrace the Terrans, their tattoo rings glowing as bright as the other. I believe that more than anything, she whispers. The two share their initial travel time together in relative silence, as the rover departs further and further from the colony at a decently fast pace. Once they turn around a rising cliffside and start to delve down a path between two sheer walls of asteroid mountains, the Callie's hand on Simone's thigh begins to massage it. Needing no further cue, Simone activates the autopilot and turns in her seat to passionately lay her face into Chuck's. After a few heart-racing moments, Chuck stands and pulls off the Terran sweater as she does so. Draping the garment on her now open seat, she moves forward and nestles into the Terran's lap with her legs dangling on either side of Simone's. Simone smirks as she helps lift the Callie's dorky sweater free as well, leaving the two in their party dresses. It's official, Simone utters, as the Callie cradles her red-headed fur with lower arm limbs. It very much is, Chuck replies with admiring direct eye contact. The Central News media is going to have a field day with it, and I can only imagine what your people's old politicians are going to think, Simone remarks with a softening chuckle, as she starts to get lost in her wife's glowing red eyes. I don't care what they think. They can scream like hatchlings for all I care. This is where I want to be. You are who I want to be with, and that's final, Chuck says, as she brushes her upper arm's claws through the Terran's fur. Hell yeah, Simone whispers, while she reaches her hands under Chuck's dress. You're really hot in a dress, you know that? Oh, so are you. It's almost a shame that you'll be taking it off soon, Chuck replies, as her fur begins to illuminate. Although her dyed fur is dimmed by comparison to her untouched white, it still manages to glow with a slight tint. Simone shrugs slightly as she coyly looks away. I mean, going to Pound Town while still in a dress sounds... She drags on to gauge how the Callie feels about it. The princess blinks almost blankly as the concept sinks into her horn dog mind. Let's get to the bed, she states in an order, as she plants a hoof back to the floor and stands. Now. Without another word, Simone quickly gets up as well, and is led by the hand out from the driver bay, and up the steep side steps up to the loft, which is little more than a flush soft mattress surrounded by a flat surface. As Chuck swings around to the steps, she swiftly snags their truss bags of bedroom items, before making her way up. Although it accidentally turns into a sexy thing, Simone raises a hand on the Callie's rump as she ascends ahead of her. She initially did so because she is too concerned that the steps are slightly perilous for her wife's hoof feet, though after doing it causes Chuck's fur to fully glow to its max potential. Crawling up into the loft, Simone hardly has enough room to not scrape her head on the thankfully padded ceiling as she sits upright. At the front end is a rectangular viewing port that doubles as a media screen if desired. Though at the moment, the only thing that can be seen is rocks and the road ahead. Lay down, Lav, Jack instructs, as she pats the space next to her while she fiddles through her bag. Just a sec, Simone replies, as she crawls forward and activates the media screen to block the viewport. Probably near zero chance of anyone catching a peek, but something about being isolated like this somehow jabs at her paranoia of exactly that happening. Then, laying horizontally from the screen, she brings her arms back behind her head. Arching her back just a little bit, she strikes a subtle, sexy pose for her wife. As Jack removes what she was looking for and gets ready to set up, she glances at Simone, finding herself pausing at the sight. Like what you see, hot stuff? Simone says, with a raised eye tuft. I love it, Jack agrees, as her fur dims ever so slightly along with her greying eyes. Realizing the Callie is crying, Simone sits up and wraps her hand around the back of Jack's head and pulls her close. You okay? The Terran asks lovingly. I love you so much, Jack whispers in a staggering cry. How can I possibly be this happy after everything? Shouldn't I feel bad? That my family is gone and yet I get to be this happy? I'm so sorry. I don't know what's come over me. Oh dear. I'm married. And I'm so happy about it. It's now just hitting me how happy I am to be here with you after everything. Simone pulls Jack into an embrace and holds on for as long as the Callie needs to get the bulk of the needed crying out. Jack, if there's one thing being with you has taught me, is that I'm worth loving, and that life is worth experiencing that love. We've both been through a lot, so fuck the universe for a minute, and let's just focus on us. We deserve this, and each other. Even now it's hard for me to accept that I deserve you, but I'm choosing to believe that I do because you believe I am. That's more than enough for me. You are exactly what I need, and so I'll do my damnedest to be everything you need. Simone tenderly whispers, before gently pulling and rotating them both until she lays Jack down while she straddles above her. Jack's breathing deepens as she takes in Simone looming over her. Okay, she manages to agree, while feeling her legs numb a bit, in a way she hasn't felt since first seeing Simone in this manner. Should I put on my suit? She asks. Simone glances over at the bag before returning to Chuck. Reaching down, she takes away what the Callie still held, and takes control of its use. Not yet. This is a very special occasion, so this time, you're just going to have to trust me, the Terran says, with little else than the alluring rasp of her voice, while she carefully spreads the princess's legs. Would you like that? She then questions with a smirk. Chuck's eyes are practically blinding the redhead with how much they're beaming. Yes, very much, she replies, in little more than escaping air. Then open up, Simone says, as she puts the item aside.